In 2005, Hilary Swank stood on stage holding her second Oscar. She thanked her husband and called him her everything. 1 year later, they were divorcing. But that wasn't the only thing falling apart. Her biggest films after those wins lost millions. Her body was fighting a battle she hid from everyone. And the industry that gave her 2 golden statues suddenly didn't know what to do with her anymore. What really happened to the woman who once seemed unstoppable? The truth leads through hospital rooms, denied insurance claims, and a pattern few noticed until it was too late. Hilary Swank was born on July 30, 1974, in Lincoln, Nebraska, into a family that struggled to stay stable. Her childhood was shaped by movement and uncertainty. Eventually, her family settled in Bellingham, Washington, where life became quieter but not easier. By the time she was 6 years old, Hilary was living in a trailer park near Lake Samish. The place was small, isolated, and carried a social stigma she felt immediately. At school, she learned something painful very early: people judged her based on where she lived. Once other parents found out she lived in a trailer, invitations stopped. Friends disappeared. She watched classmates walk into birthday parties and family dinners while she stayed home pretending she didn't care. But she did care. Deeply. That sense of being unwanted shaped how she saw the world and herself. It taught her that people could decide your worth without ever knowing your name. Loneliness became her constant companion, but it also pushed her inward. She found comfort in books and movies because they didn't judge her. Stories became her escape. When she read or watched films, she felt understood. Those fictional characters fighting pain and rising again made her believe that life could be more than what she was living. Inside her home, things weren't calm either. Her parents, Stephen and Judy, were constantly struggling to pay bills. Arguments filled the air, and tension never really left. By the time Hilary turned 15, their marriage collapsed. The divorce forced a hard decision. Judy looked at her daughter and chose risk over fear. In 1990, they packed what little they had, took $75 and a single gas station credit card, and drove to Los Angeles. When they arrived, reality hit fast. They had no place to live. For weeks, the car became their home. They slept in it at night and washed up in public bathrooms during the day. Hilary went to auditions wearing borrowed clothes, hoping no one noticed how tired she was. She was old enough to understand how fragile their situation was, but she never stopped going. Acting was no longer just a dream. It was survival. Theater had already given her something special back in Bellingham. It was the first place where she wasn't judged. At 9 years old, she played Mowgli in The Jungle Book, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged. The stage welcomed her when the world did not. That feeling stayed with her and grew stronger as she got older. After weeks of living in their car, things slowly changed. Judy found a secretarial job, and they rented a tiny room from a single mother in Burbank. It wasn't much, but it felt like a miracle. Hilary began landing small TV roles. The pay was small, the recognition non-existent, but she was working. And to her, that meant hope. Hollywood, however, was unforgiving. Rejection followed her everywhere. She auditioned endlessly, often losing roles to girls with famous names or stronger connections. She accepted uncredited parts just to stay close to the industry. In 1992, she appeared in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The role was tiny, the movie forgettable, but it put her on the map just enough to move forward. She continued working on shows like Growing Pains, Evening Shade, and Harry and the Hendersons. None of these roles brought fame, but they taught her discipline and patience. In 1994, she landed her first leading role in The Next Karate Kid. The film failed at the box office and became the weakest entry in the franchise. Critics weren't kind, but some noticed her effort. Still, the setback slowed her again. By the late 1990s, Hilary was exhausted. She took small films that went nowhere and wondered if she was chasing the wrong dream. Then came Beverly Hills 90210 in 1998. She was promised stability, a 2-year contract. But after only 16 episodes, her character was written out. She was sent away quietly, as if she never mattered. It crushed her. She questioned her talent and even considered quitting acting altogether. Only 2 months later, everything changed. She auditioned for Boys Don't Cry. The role was terrifying and demanding, but she knew she had to take it. She cut her hair, bound her chest, lived as a man for weeks, and studied everything she could about Brandon Tina. The transformation was so deep that she felt she lost parts of herself along the way. But she pushed through. When the film premiered in 1999, the response was overwhelming. Critics were stunned. Audiences were silent in theaters. No one saw an actress anymore, they saw a human being living in pain. At the 2000 Academy Awards, Hilary Swank won Best Actress. It was one of the biggest Oscar surprises in history. But that night also brought pain. In her rushed speech, she forgot to thank her husband, Chad Lowe. The mistake became a headline. Her greatest moment was overshadowed by embarrassment. Though Chad forgave her instantly, the media never did. The moment followed her for years, adding pressure to a marriage already under strain. In 2005, she did the impossible again. After 5 hours of brutal training every day for $1 Million Baby, she transformed her body completely. She boxed, lifted weights, ate thousands of calories, and pushed herself beyond limits. The role won her a second Oscar, making her one of the few women in history to achieve that feat on stage. She called her husband her everything. A year later, they were separating. The pattern was becoming clear, every professional peak came with a personal collapse. After Boys Don't Cry, her marriage shook. After $1 Million Baby, it broke completely. They divorced in 2007. She later admitted how deeply she had struggled with his substance abuse and how hard she tried to hold everything together while the world watched her succeed. Hollywood expected more miracles from her. Instead, her films began to fail. The Black Dahlia lost money. Amelia flopped hard. The Reaping disappointed. Even when critics praised her acting, audiences didn't show up. The industry didn't know where to place her. 2 Oscars made her prestigious and untouchable. She wasn't considered commercial anymore. While her career slowed, her body was fighting a battle she kept hidden. For over a decade, she suffered from ovarian cysts and endometriosis. In 2008, she lost one ovary in emergency surgery. The pain never stopped. She kept working through it, hiding the fatigue and fear. When her insurance began denying treatment claims, she finally spoke out. In 2020, she sued her union's health plan, revealing years of denied care. Her fight sparked conversations across Hollywood about women's health and how often it's dismissed. Life softened again in 2018 when she met Philip Schneider on a blind date. The connection was instant and calm, something she had never known. They married quickly, quietly, and peacefully. In 2023, at age 48, she became a mother to twins, after freezing her eggs years earlier. The pregnancy was high risk, but the joy was real. After decades of fighting, she finally found peace. Hilary Swank's story isn't one of simple success. It's a story of survival, resilience, and endurance. She won 2 Oscars, and paid for them in ways few people saw. Behind every trophy was pain, behind every victory was loss. And yet, she kept going. Because that lonely girl in the trailer park never stopped believing that stories could save you, and in the end, she became one herself.